Hey everybody, I'm going to be sharing some knowledge with you all. Who's excited for some knowledge? Okay, as a makeup artist, I get asked a lot of questions all the time. I always have people and groups constantly messaging me asking questions. And I noticed that one of my most frequently questions that I get asked all the time, that was backwards, whoops. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, what is the difference between contouring and bronzing? Girl, there is a huge difference between contouring and bronzing, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm just going to start off. I'm not going to make this a huge video where I'm rambling on about all the differences and everything, but I'm going to take a second and talk about the differences between each product, how to apply them differently, and the different brushes that there are to apply each product. So I'm just going to start off by talking about bronzer. Okay, so the bronzer that I have today is the e.l.f. St. Lucia Bronzer Duo. This has a blush and a bronzer. This is the bronzer that I am talking about. Well, I mean, all bronzers aren't made equally, but they all have the same base idea. A bronzer gives you that sun-kissed glow effect. I don't mean glow as in highlighter. I mean, like, it gives some warmth to your skin. It makes you look like you've been out in the sun for a while. So if you're in the middle of winter and you want to lie to all your friends and you were like, yeah, I just took a vacation to like Puerto Rico and I got so burnt. If you want to say that to your friends, you need to pull it off by adding some bronzer. Bronzer, again, will give you that sun-kissed effect. It will bring warmth into your skin. You do not ever, 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 ever want to use bronzer in the way that you would use contour. Why, you ask? Because look at this. Look at the warmth this bronzer has. When I say warmth, I'm going to give you the contour to compare it to. Do you see how this is more cool toned and this is more warm toned? That is because contour is different than bronzer, first of all. Bronzer gives you that sun-kissed glow. That's all I gotta say about bronzer. It has some glitter or sheen to it, depending on the quality, who made it, how inexpensive or expensive it is. Some bronzers will have more of a sheen to them, while some bronzers will have more of a glitter to them. This is kind of a mix of both. This does have a little bit of glitter. When you go outside, you don't have any warmth. Like, the sun doesn't go, I'm gonna give her some shadow on her, like, under her jawline. No, the sun, like, doesn't do that at all. No, but the sun goes, oh, I want to give her pretty face some kisses. So wherever you apply your highlight, as in the high points of your face, is where you get sunburn. It's where everybody gets sunburned first. I get sunburnt on my nose first always, but everybody, when they get sun, they get it on the high points of their face. That is where you want to apply your bronzer. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to properly apply bronzer. When you apply bronzer, you don't smear like that. You want to tap it in if you're wearing foundation, because if you do this effect, you're really just smearing around the foundation, but when you're tapping it in, you're making sure that the product not only stays as pigmented as you want it to, because you're not smearing into foundation, but it's also helping to make sure that it stays in place. So as you can see, I already look like I spent like months and months and months in Egypt. Okay, maybe like a day outside. But I look warm, and I look like I have some tan to my skin, a little bit of sunburn effect, if you will. I don't look dangerously sunburned, but I do look like I've gotten some warmth and I look like I've been outside for a while. That is what bronzer does. Nice and easy. Now, let's stop for a hot second and talk about what kind of brush I just used. There are bronzing brushes, there are powder brushes, and there are blush brushes. You can use all of those brushes for bronzing. I really don't want to say the same about contouring, because contouring, again, is a completely different effect than bronzing. What? Yes, girl. Here we're going to be talking about contouring now. Now look at these shadows. As I mentioned earlier, the contouring shadows are cool. Why? Have you ever looked outside and seen your shadow on the pavement and gone, that shadow is really nice and warm tone? No. Shadows aren't warm tone. They have a cool effect, and the reason why contour is cool is because you're placing a shadow, if you will, on the structure of your skull and your face bones to give yourself that nice thinning effect. there are different brushes for contouring. I mean, you've got these small ones like this. You could literally use an eyeshadow brush. And there are the contouring brushes like this. You don't want to use a bronzing brush in place of a contour brush. Why? Because you want your shadow to be nice and like placed exactly where you want it to be. That way your shadow isn't like all the way up here, and that would have the absolute opposite effect. It's okay if you use a fluffy brush for bronzing because the sun isn't in a specific spot. It's going to hit all over your face. It'll be nice and fluffy and, what is that word? Blended out, if you will. Your shadow is not going to be blended out, so that's not what you want to do with your contour brush. Now, with contour, I always highly recommend that you do the same tapping motion because you don't want your contour to blend into your foundation. You want it to sit on top of your foundation, but nobody's going to beat you up if you like don't do that. So, here we have my Morphe M460 brush. You can use any of these contour shades depending on how much cheekbone you want. I'm going to mix these two shades together. I'm going to suck in my cheekbone. I do have a rounder face, so I mean obviously my cheekbones are going to immediately pop in, but it will help slim my face down a little bit. So I'm going to suck in my cheek. And I saw right here, that is where you want to put your contour line. When you are contouring, you don't ever want to go past the peak of your eyebrow or your pupil. Why? Because by elongating the line of your contour, you're going to make your face look much more aged. And none of us want that. Even if you are an older woman watching this, you want to stop right about here with your contour. Don't ever go in towards your cheek. It will make your face look saggy and soggy. And what word am I trying to use? But it will make your face look much more aged. When you start your contour line, you want to follow along with the natural structure of your face. I always say, when you start your contour line, you want to start up right where your ear touches your face. Not your skin, but your face, where they connect. That's where I like to start mine because that's where my facial structure, my cheek starts. But if you have a, what is that word? A rounder face, you'll probably want to start where whatever this part of the ear is. This part right here, you probably want to start right about there and just follow along. So, with that said, I'm going to now show you how to contour. So like I said, we're just going in and tapping. And we're giving ourselves that shadow effect. And I'm stopping where I have the peak of my eyebrow. I stopped. Do you see how I blended that out right there? So it's not super dark. When you are contouring, you want to have an ombre effect. You want to have it dark to light. Dark to light. I have the darkest part of my contour back here. That will definitely make your face look more suctioned in and more like that. It'll make it look more like that. And down here, it'll help you fight that aging look by having an ombre. So if you're not somebody who's into a harsh contour line, that is perfectly fine. But I do want to cover up my face and say, hey, look, here's that sun-kissed effect. And here is the thinner effect where my face looks much more thinner, structured. The same thing when you contour your nose. You don't want to use bronzer. You only want to use bronzer if you want to give your nose that sun-kissed effect, like, ooh, that sun-kissed glow, which you would use here and here, like you would when you highlight. Let me show you. See, look, looks like I got some cute little sun. But when you contour, you want to use contouring because you want it to look like you got a nose job, and nose jobs aren't shiny and shimmery. So, with that said, if you don't like a harsh contour, you can totally blend that out. I'm going to be using my Morphe R8 to blend that out. You can just go like this and blend it out carefully, or you could go like this. I'm just turning my brush to like this or like this to blend that out and not make it so harsh. But I still have that shadow effect. I still have that, like, my cheekbones are caving in and I look really thin. So, That is the difference between bronzing and contouring. The different brushes, the different applications, the different products. Again, contour, don't drop it. Contouring is always, always, always going to be a cool toned matte powder. If it is not cool toned and it's not matte, do not use it for the contouring effect. A bronzer is always, always, always going to be a warm tone, shimmery, shiny, sheen powder. So that's it. That was like it, and I just filled you all with so much knowledge, and I hoped you like it. I hoped I didn't sound too mean in this one. But as always, I love hearing from y'all, and I can't wait to see you in my next video.